the Marketplace Morning Report. From APM, American Public Media.
ViStar Credit Union is proud to be a production underwriter of First Coast Connect's Friday Roundtable. ViStar, we never forget it's your money. On the web at vistarcu.org.
Baptist Health wants you to have peace of mind during these challenging times. If you have concerns about COVID-19 symptoms or the vaccine, talk to an expert. This service is available every day, 8 a.m. through 5 p.m. 904-302-5050.
North Florida TPO, proud sponsor of WJCT's First Coast Connect, bringing to the community innovation in transportation planning, commuter services, clean fuels, and intelligent transportation systems. More at northfloridatpo.com.
Opinions expressed on the Friday Media Roundtable are those of our panelists and do not necessarily reflect the views of WJCT News.
And just ahead this hour on First Coast Connect, we'll take a look back at the week's top stories with our Friday Media Roundtable. It's still 2 years away, but the Jax mayoral race is already off and running. Battle lines are drawn over a plan for Metropolitan Park and the downtown riverfront, and the Jaguars go back to the future with teal. All of that and more with our Friday Roundtable. Then later, some news and notes for your weekend, including, yes, Monster Jam. It's all ahead.
Good morning, 9:04 now. This is WJCT News 89.9 in Jacksonville. We have First Coast Connect with Melissa Ross just ahead. Governor Ron DeSantis yesterday was at another pop-up vaccination site near Tampa. As Kathy Carter reports, the site in Pinellas Park will deliver about 3,000 vaccinations to people 65 and older. And DeSantis says more is on the way.
A day after DeSantis appeared at a vaccination site at a predominantly wealthy white enclave in Lakewood Ranch, he visited distribution sites at a mobile home park in Largo and a community center in Pinellas Park. He says he'll bring another 5,000 shots to Pinellas next week, and he says he's working with the federal government to bring FEMA sites to Florida.
I think you will have one of those sites, if they do approve it, in the Tampa Bay area, most likely in Hillsborough County. And they're putting, I think, about 20,000 doses per site per week. So that would be a great increase.
DeSantis was initially against the idea of FEMA vaccination sites, but said he changed his mind because it would bring additional doses to Florida. He says FEMA could be bringing the sites to the state in March. I'm Kathy Carter in Sarasota.
Ivanka Trump is not planning to challenge Senator Marco Rubio in next year's GOP primary. Valerie Crowder has that story.
The New York Times first broke the news on Thursday that President Trump's eldest daughter would not run for U.S. Senate in Florida. An unnamed campaign spokesperson told the Times that the Rubio campaign has known for weeks that Ivanka Trump would not pose a challenge in 2022. Many in the GOP have expressed support for a Trump Senate bid. Speculation about the Trump family's political future continues, but the former president hasn't given any clues as to how that would look. He recently said it was too soon to talk about running again in 2024. I'm Valerie Crowder.
It's 55 degrees here in Jacksonville, cloudy sky, temperatures falling to the low 50s by 4 p.m.
The Jacksonville mayor's race is already off and running, with candidates raising millions. Battle lines are drawn over a plan for Metropolitan Park and the downtown riverfront. And the Jaguars go teal again. Some of the stories making headlines this week. Good Friday morning. We're live from Studio 5. I'm Melissa Ross. And this is First Coast Connect. Thanks for listening. Just ahead, all of the top stories of the week with our Friday Roundtable. It's 549-2937 to join us. Then later, we'll rev your engine for this weekend's Monster Jam. Yeah, but first, it's Friday, and here to discuss a busy news week, we welcome, after a long absence, pleased to have back on the show, John Bachman of Action News Jax. Hey, John.
Good morning, everybody. Glad to be back. Sorry it's been so long.
I know. We're so glad to get you today. Journalist and author Nikisha Williams back with us. Nikisha, good morning.
Hi, Melissa, and hi, John.
It's a party on this show today, even though we're all socially distanced. David Bauerlein of the Florida Times-Union, the dean of print journalists in this town. Hi, David.
Good morning, everybody.
And rounding out our panel, the always excellent Mike Mendenhall of the Jacksonville Daily Record. Hi, Mike.
Good morning, Melissa. Good to be with everyone.
Good to have you all, and so much to get into this week. We'll go to your calls in a moment about the biggest stories of the week. Already getting your calls. Join the conversation. It's 549-2937. But first, the latest COVID numbers. The state is now reporting 1.84 million cumulative coronavirus cases since the pandemic began. That's a 5,117 daily increase. The death toll in Florida stands at 29,474. Now, throughout this pandemic, our current mayor, Lenny Curry, has paid attention to the advice of public health experts. He's extended the mask mate, worked hard to get vaccination sites around town, encouraged social distancing. And, of course, the mayor is termed out in 2023. But even though Jacksonville won't elect a new leader for 2 more years, the campaign is truly already off and running. We learned this week that Jack's Chamber President Daniel Davis has already raised $1.3 million for a political committee that he controls. That's an unprecedented sum, more than 2 years out for a local race that he hasn't even formally declared yet. City Councilman Matt Carlucci has already announced he's running for mayor, so those are the 2 most prominent Republican names in the mix, and there is speculation about who the local Democratic Party might run for mayor, particularly since Duval County, of course, went blue in the 2020 November election for Joe Biden over Donald Trump. So lots of news to get into, but we're going to begin with a discussion of the mayor's race. Let us know your thoughts. It's 549-2937. Give us a call. Emails to firstcoastconnect@wjct.org. Tweets to @MelissaInJax. And our Facebook page is open. David Bauerlein, let's begin with you. The Times-Union reporting that Davis has already raised over $1 million. It's sure to be a very substantial war chest by the time people go to the polls and the ads are on television and the mailers are in our mailboxes. Can any candidate catch up to this fundraising prowess we're already seeing from the Jack's Chamber president?
It'll be difficult. In 2015, there's about a $10 million mayoral campaign. That was a race between Alvin Brown, the incumbent, Lenny Curry, the challenger. That went to a runoff. Huge amount of spending in that race. Then in 2019, it was about $6 million. And there you just had Lenny Curry, the incumbent, who raised over $5 million. Anna Brochet had a few $100,000 she raised. Now we're headed towards 2023, and it's, first of all, you're like, wow, did I get the calendar wrong? It's been less than 2 years since our last mayoral election, and already we're having $1.3 million fundraising figures. It's going to be a race. It's probably going to be, it could well be more than $10 million raised and spent. There's going to be a huge amount of funding. Matt Carlucci would have a difficult time catching up, but he's certainly in a better position, say, than Anna Brochet was back in 2019, where you had an incumbent. Now it's more of a wide open Senate, open seat. So he will be challenged to keep up at that fundraising pace. But I think he's going to have some donors who are willing to stroke really big checks as well. So he's going to be able to make it competitive for sure.
Nikisha Williams, the other big question hanging out there is, will the Duval County Democratic Party field a candidate? They did not even run anyone for mayor the last cycle. That is not expected to be the case this time. The question is, who will emerge as the opposition player to what's sure to be a really well-funded Republican side?
Absolutely. I think that the Duval County Democrats this time around absolutely will field a candidate, just because it'll be more of a wide open race and not facing a popular incumbent as Lenny Curry was a few years ago. However, it's about, what can that Democrat deliver not only to Jacksonville's Black community, but how can they appeal to the wider city population at large to garner enough votes to possibly take office?
John Bachman, Action News Jax. You almost have to ask why anyone would want to be the Jacksonville mayor with the problems the next person's going to have. I mean, the needs in this city are overwhelming. We've got crumbling infrastructure. We've got a massive homicide problem that just does not get better year in, year out. We've got to deal with flooding issues, climate change issues, educational issues, jobs and economic development. I mean, this city has a huge array of challenges. And so, it's going to be a tough job for whomever succeeds Lenny Curry.
Well, when you phrase it like that, Melissa, you're right. Who is going to want this thing? You're right. A lot of challenges. Of course, there's always going to be somebody who thinks that they can take on those challenges and succeed. I think, the elephant in the room, perhaps on the Democrat side, might be Donna Deegan, for instance. And if that's the case, she has shown she can raise money to maybe not compete with Daniel Davis, but certainly get in that level. We've been talking about, the amount of money, and I know there's been a lot of talk about that for mayor of Jacksonville. And I guess the one thing I'd say to put a little perspective on it is, yes, that's a lot of money for this sort of race. But that's just the state of politics. I just covered the Georgia Senate runoff elections where they had $500 million spent on those two races. So obviously it's a different situation that had to do with the control of the Senate. I mean, there was a lot of national interest there, of course. But that's just the state of politics right now, whether you like it or not. And so, that's where we are. That's the answer. Yeah,
it's just, let's get back to the dollars. Mike Mendenhall, it's simply astounding that for a local campaign like this, we're going to see that many millions raised and that's what it takes to win county-wide. Let's keep in mind, Duval County is huge. We're still the largest city by landmass in America, or near to it. So, the winning candidate is going to have to raise just unprecedented amounts of money. And what about John's comment? Will we see someone like, say, Donna Deegan emerge to carry the banner for the Democrats?
Well, starting there, Melissa, I mean, Donna Deegan, she was relatively competitive when she ran against John Rutherford in what is a pretty conservative district, which includes the beaches and here in Duval County. So, I mean, that would be a logical name to throw out there. There's also a couple of people on the city council that we might want to look at too. Councilmember Joyce Morgan. I've heard a few people float her name, as well as I understand people have approached Brenda Priestley Jackson as well. She's in her first term. So she may not be a likely choice, but she's a known name. She was on the Duval County Public School District's board for a long time. And when you're talking about the fundraising totals, I mean, Jacksonville during the 2020 presidential campaign took on some national prominence as a shifting political market, going toward the Democrats. So it kind of makes sense that the Republicans would get out there early and really start raising money to make sure that they're, putting up that psychological firewall to make people think twice before entering the race.
And what about that David Bauer line? As your newspaper has been reporting, a really small group of heavy donors has already thrown in behind Daniel Davis. And they've been planning his candidacy for years. And so is the window closing for the Democrats to even field a candidate at this point?
So I don't think it's closed. I mean, certainly it gets narrower as more of those contributors line up. Now, a lot of the 1.3 million came from people who wrote $100,000 checks, which is kind of staggering in and of itself. And they'll probably be willing to write checks of even greater amounts as the campaign unfolds. So the Democratic Party would certainly have an interest in this race. Democrats are not represented really at the statewide level, but the big cities in Florida have been represented by Democratic mayors, and Jacksonville's been the outlier. So certainly it'd be a race that the state Democratic Party would be interested in supporting. And then, could that person then raise as much money, say, as Alvin Brown did in 2015? No, because Brown was an incumbent, but they would be able to draw on the party affiliation, which everybody's got a D or an R next to their name. And so that would have some built-in constituency right off the bat. And it would all be a question of, could a Democrat force a runoff and make that runoff as the number 2 candidate, and then try and do what Brown did, which is then appeal to others to join his or her campaign, and then try and close it out in that way. So there's a path there for a Democrat, but so whoever it is probably would want to start raising some money now, because they're going to have a lot of resources to compete for this race.
And David, let's keep in mind, when Alvin Brown was first elected mayor, it was because the Republican power brokers in this city switched their muscle to him as a way to foreclose any path for Mike Hogan, who they saw as too extreme.
Exactly. He was able to have that crossover appeal and expand his base. But to get into that position, to be in the runoff, he really just drew on traditional Democratic voters in great enough numbers to make it to the number 2 slot and put himself in a position to make that appeal.
It's our Friday Roundtable with David Bauerlein, John Bachman, Nikisha Williams, Mike Mendenhall, and yours truly. As we talk about the Jacksonville mayor's race, we're going to take some calls on that and then move on to what you think should be done with the downtown riverfront. That's in a moment. But first, it's 549-2937. Javon on the line all the way from Tampa. Javon, I'm so excited that you're listening to us from the other coast of Florida. Good morning.
Good morning. And
we lost you there, Javon. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I was saying I grew up in Jacksonville and visit often, and I think Tampa just has a completely different vibe and an interest from leadership in maintaining the city, in building up the downtown, building up the riverfront. We don't have a mayor down here trying to sell off public assets or trying to cut deals left and right to give away huge sums of money with no benefit for the city. If Jacksonville wants to see things change, it's time to stop voting for Republicans, just plain and simple. What has Jacksonville gotten for 50 years, more or less, of Republican leadership?
Javon, thanks. John Bachman, is that an argument that's going to get any play in Duval County in 2023?
I mean, realistically, no. I mean, even though Democrats did, in fact, do better this time around, the fact is Republicans are still very strong in the city of Jacksonville and in Duval County. So it is what it is.
What do you think, Nikisha Williams? And let's talk about how we've all covered the changing demographics of Jacksonville, at least at the presidential level. We saw that reflected. Does that go down ballot, though, to these kinds of local municipal races?
No, it doesn't. I mean, what we saw nationally in the presidential election was very much about the 45th president, because even in those down ballot races with the House and the Senate, there wasn't the blue wave that everyone was expecting to retake the House by extremely large margins. That Georgia Senate race was really the defining factor of who was going to overtake the Senate. There's not a supermajority there. And I think we see that also in state races as well as in local races. This is what happened in 2020 and the demographics that changed the federal face of politics does not apply locally. That was very much a referendum on the 45th president, not so much a referendum on local politics. And so to say, just stop voting for Republican candidates, that's just not going to happen. And even when we had a Democratic mayor in Alvin Brown, the same problem still existed with crime, not knowing what to do with downtown, not having development, and having all these issues. Those issues have persisted no matter which party has been in power or in control in City Hall. So now it's about, which candidate coming forward where there's not an incumbent in the race has the best plan to actually tackle these issues and then to follow up without making so many compromises that they can't get anything done.
Yeah, Mike Mendenhall, we've been talking about the same issues for so long on this program. There's such a feeling of inertia in this city about solving some of these big problems. And you've even seen Republican candidates like Matt Carlucci, who, when the last time he appeared on this program, opened the door to a tax increase of some kind to deal with Jacksonville's problems, whether it's a property tax hike or some other way of finding revenue so that the city can beef up its infrastructure, deal with public safety, and all of the other things that we continually talk about.
That's right, Melissa, and Matt Carlucci has been, very supportive of the resiliency committee on the Jacksonville City Council. I mean, what you're seeing with the Republicans with Daniel Davis and Matt Carlucci that have already announced is you're really seeing a split from the establishment to what Councilmember Carlucci is as more of a populist, and I think that with embracing some of those issues a little earlier on that are traditionally maybe in on the Democratic Party platform, you're also going to see them trying to consolidate some of those moderate votes early on to make it even more difficult for a Democrat to perform in the 2023.
Email from a listener. John says, "Stop saying there's no way for Democrats to win in Duval County. Georgia, just to our north, has shown us the template." The organizing we saw in Georgia, John Bachman, as you said, you've been covering that for Action News Jax. Certainly, Stacey Abrams in Georgia and her organizing efforts got a ton of attention nationally. But as people have been talking about, I haven't seen a local figure emerge in this community who's been able to replicate that kind of really outstanding political organizing on a light budget, by the way, that she did.
Relatively speaking, but she still was able to raise millions of dollars. Stacey Abrams has been heralded as a Democratic hero with a cape. She has done amazing things up there for the Democrats. And, to the emailer's point, again, as we've stated, Duval has changed its demographics to some degree. It is in the process of changing. So it has gone from red to purple and now a slightly darker shade of purple to maybe blue, if you will, light blue or whatever, you know what I'm saying?
So pale blue that it's almost white.
Right.
Very pale blue.
It's mostly purple still, but anyway, the point is that that is the trend. So nobody here is, I think, saying that that's not the case. I guess what I was saying earlier, I think what Nikisha was trying to say too, is that there is still a lot of money, a lot of basic historical republicanism that is still in the city that is undeniable, and that's just where we are. Is that changing? Yeah, perhaps it is. It is changing, and that doesn't mean a Democrat can't win as mayor in Jacksonville. I just don't think that we're to the point where Atlanta is right now. I mean, I used to work in Atlanta. Atlanta is a different beast. It just is.
Yeah, absolutely right. Let's take one more call on local politics. Then we're going to move on and talk about some other news and notes from the week. Hector in San Marco. Hector, happy Friday to you.
Good day to you. The problem with Jacksonville is same peoples, different families, different names. There's always switched around. No newcomers, no new faces. We had a person who was mayor. I will not use his name to insult him, but he was basically the coffee boy for the Clintons. And we need new blood in this city. The city needs an enema, like Jack Nicholson would say.
That's some colorful imagery, Hector, that you're throwing onto the radio this morning.
Yes. And someone needs to do something other than the same old thing every time. It's the same faces, but different people with different names, but it's the same type platform. We need new blood, and that's really the essential thing that's going to help Jacksonville if we intend to move forward as a city and be on the on the world stage or the public stage or whatever stage we're going to be on. But these same people, I've been here a very long time. Many friends of mine have moved to this city, and it's the same thing. Nothing changes. It's just the same people. They just have different names and different faces. And we don't need anybody who was related to someone or someone like that. That's essential to the city to stop this madness of where it's going. And I think we'll see something new in this upcoming election, the new mayor's race. I think something new. Someone will probably pop out of the woodwork and go forth and try and do something with this city.
Thank you, Hector. Hector
you
in San Marco. Thank you. David Bauerlein, I think his comments reflected a lot of the frustration with the status quo that we saw in a number of recent controversies. Everything from the public outcry over the push to sell JEA and privatize JEA, grassroots activism made sure that didn't happen. Lot J, the Lot J deal, there was a groundswell of opposition to business as usual with that deal. It went down to defeat. And then also the successful effort to put together a half-cent sales tax referendum for the local public schools. Certainly the donor class in Jacksonville got their cut of that with money set aside for charter schools. But those three recent news stories and issues, they really did show a sort of change in the local political discourse. And so will there be enough of that appetite for new blood to translate to new leadership in this city? I think that's the question we all have.
Well, first of all, I just would love to see a political campaign use some of the imagery our caller brought up, because I think that would be a political advertisement for the ages.
Hector can manage someone's campaign.
Nobody is going to be running for as a elect me and I'll give you a third Lenny Curry term. I mean, Curry has obviously shown that he's a real formidable campaigner. He won 2 elections, campaigned for the half-cent sales tax, for pension reform. He was active in the campaign for the half-cent sales tax for schools. So he has shown that he can run a really effective campaign. But after 8 years, I don't think anybody's going to say, I'm the third term of Lenny Curry if you elect me. And the voters are going to be looking for somebody who can show a difference from the Curry way of governing, the Curry type of government. And it's a question, how far do they want to stray from that? Do they want to repudiate it, or do they want to continue it with perhaps a different emphasis? It'll be interesting to see how the candidates position themselves in that regard.
Still getting tweets about this. Chip tweets the show, we need Seth Padgett to run on the Democratic ticket for mayor. Stephanie tweets us, in Duval, Republicans are so dominant that it masks meaningful differences. Matt Carlucci's politics are more consistent with the Democrats. Thanks for all of that feedback. And it's our Friday Media Roundtable as we talk about the biggest issues of the week. We're going to move on now and talk about another big story that made headlines this week. Did you see this? The Jaguars will have a 6-month window to do environmental testing on a chunk of Metropolitan Park and the shipyards. That's where team owner Shad Khan wants to build a Four Seasons hotel and some other stuff. Now, the Downtown Investment Authority Board unanimously gave the go-ahead Wednesday to do this testing. This despite a plea by a new advocacy group called Riverfront Parks Now. They want to preserve Metropolitan Park for the people. We spoke about this on Wednesday on this show with Nancy Powell of Scenic Jacksonville.
Our vision is not new. There have been visions previously with Mayor Payton and even in 2015. So we see this as a continuation of that conversation about how to best provide riverfront access to the people of Jacksonville.
All right, let us know, everybody, what you think should be done with the downtown riverfront as we talk about Shad Khan's plans to build a Four Seasons and other development at the Shipyards Met Park stretch of the North Bank Riverwalk. What do you think should happen? Keep in mind, the Lot J deal is already dead. This is for more development that's planned across the street on the waterfront. It's 549-2937. Give us a call. Nikisha Williams, this group, Riverfront Parks Now, it's a coalition of groups, everyone from the St. John's Riverkeeper to Scenic Jacksonville to the Jacksonville Garden Club, Sierra Club, even the League of Women Voters. And they've basically asked the DIA to preserve the waterfront as park space. The DIA says it's okay to go ahead and do this environmental testing because the results of that test will be helpful to determine whatever the final product on the waterfront should be. But Nikisha, anytime people visit this city from somewhere else, the most common thing we hear, and I've heard it many times from visitors, is why isn't your downtown riverfront more developed? And it's so frustrating to see these parcels sit empty year after year after year. Now, at the same time, the Parks Now group is making a case that park space on the waterfront is an economic driver. It will bring more people downtown. And we have a once-in-a-generation opportunity to get this right. That's their argument. Is that a winning argument?
I don't think it's necessarily a losing argument, but I would add that we can do both. We can have green space on the riverfront and hotels and attractions and other developments that get people to actually want to come downtown and to attract all the big events that the city keeps talking about, like another Super Bowl or a draft or a big convention or just something that brings people to want to come downtown. The Landing is gone. The old courthouse annex is gone. The Liberty Street Bridge area is still kind of a mess. We have all of this water space and all of this space to do something with, and there's nothing there. So yes, do the testing, preserve some green space, but build some stuff on it too. I mean, we can do both.
Mike Mendenhall, Jack's Daily Record. Can this city do both?
Well, it certainly has the resources to do both. I think one of the frustrations that I've heard from the River Parks Now group is that it's more than just putting green space on the riverfront. It's having a cohesive vision and having those public parks and those public access points to the St. Johns River to kind of be interconnected and really have a holistic approach and have private development down there complementary of the green space and the public park space. And the Downtown Investment Authority has been making some pushes recently, particularly with the Jacksonville Landing, to the former Jacksonville Landing, to put some of that public park space. They've got an RFP out right now to get design firms to design a 4.5 acre public park right on the riverfront. They're doing a small expansion of the park that holds Friendship Fountain with another private development going over there. But and there is going to be a workshop coming up next week that's kind of a joint workshop between the City Council, DIA, and the Downtown Development Review Board to talk about their findings that they're doing with the Jesse Paul DuPont Center. So there certainly is some movement toward that. And now the question is, will a developer like ShadCon their vision and end up being the de facto winner in the end, or will that end up complementing? We still don't know.
549-2937. Lots of calls as we kind of take the pulse of the public. What do you think should be done with the downtown riverfront property that has yet to be developed on the North Bank? Anna in 5 Points. Hi, Anna. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Okay, thanks. Go ahead.
Well, in conversations about turning Metropolitan Park into an elite hotel, and of course, there's no guarantee that there will be guests coming in, but I think that's beside the point. The point is that would be, in essence, giving away property that belongs to every single person that lives in Jacksonville, Florida, and depriving so many people of an opportunity to view the river in a beautiful, safe environment. There are so many cities, and Nancy Powell has done a fabulous job of letting people know what other cities have done and what they've created with their riverfront. We are always talking about how we're the river city, but we're not expanding on it. We're not, utilizing it and making it our own. If we had an opportunity to do a beautiful downtown park that every citizen could participate in and enjoy for recreation and relaxation. Think about what that would mean to a lot of people that never get to the beach. There's a lot of people that live in Jacksonville, never seen the beach. There's a lot of people that would really enjoy an opportunity to have this kind of environment for children and seniors. So let's not give away what belongs to us. I'm totally opposed to it.
Thank you, Anna. You know, John Bachman, that's the argument parks advocates are making, which is that the Metropolitan Park Kids Campus spot, it has been public park space for a long time. There's this frustration of having to preserve it. You're hearing from callers like Anna. And, you know, when we hosted Nancy Pell from Riverfront Parks Now on the show the other day, she pointed out that cities like Atlanta, where you used to live, Chicago, New York, any major city, property on a major park is highly valued, highly coveted. A beautifully designed park space is an economic engine. Now, at the same time, if Shad Khan presents a really attractive proposal for this waterfront property that also includes some public park space, that may be a winning argument with the Downtown Investment Authority. But I want to ask you too, John, can a Four Seasons make it in downtown Jacksonville? That's just a practical question I've had for a long time about this.
Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know. I think if it were to occur, it'd have to be a scaled down version of what we've seen in Four Seasons in Toronto, for example, which is Shad Khan's property, and how he would be able to even entertain the idea of bringing in Four Seasons to Jacksonville. I think that's still several steps down the way in the process. To answer, though, I think what you're asking also is, I think we can do it all. Everybody, I think, agrees that having a park, whether it's Metropolitan Park or putting it somewhere else, which obviously has not been okayed by anybody at this point, would be a good thing for development. I think what it boils down to here is the will of the people, because you're going to have to, as a city, we're going to have to put money where our mouths are if we really want downtown development to occur. And I went to Toronto. The chamber has been studying this issue for years. Mm-hmm. They've sent trips, contingencies of city leaders and business people to different cities that have built on the water every year for years. And a couple years ago, they went to Toronto, and I went up there and asked a developer, because Toronto in the last 30 years has exploded, mostly along the lake there. And I asked the developer, how did this happen, and why can't we, as Jacksonville, we have this beautiful riverfront property. There's the worry of contamination in some of the dirt, which has been long said the holdup for the development. Well, you know what? The guy says to me, John, an extra $40 million is really nothing if it's worth the developer building and there's enough money to be made there. Right now, we just don't have that. There's nothing downtown that would prompt a developer to spend hundreds of millions of dollars to try to make money off of that. So as a city, we have to, if we want to do this, we have to be willing to put something up for that to start the process, the snowball, if you will, that we have to pack to get it to roll. So that's really what this boils down to. What do we want to see as a city? Because if we're not willing to do that, then we're going to continue to do what we've been doing for the last 20, 30 years.
A listener emails the show, we need something big in Jacksonville to attract visitors and publicity. Before the Jaguars, Jacksonville was totally unknown. North Florida brought tourism in, visitors to TPC, World Golf Village, and St. Augustine, but none of those are in Duval County. Carolina in Atlantic Beach. Carolina, thanks for holding. You're on the air.
Good morning. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you for having this program. I appreciate it.
Sure.
I have just a quick comment. I think, unfortunately, the people that are collecting the money for investments have very little imagination. As far as I can see, you pretty much don't need to look much further than St. Petersburg, Florida, where they have the magnificent pier. It was so blighted 20 years ago back then. And that pier, you can't keep people away. And there are people of all levels of income, all colors of political stripes and ages. They have tours. They have a little marine museum. They give classes. There's a marina across the way. There are kiosks. I mean, if you imagine what nature can do for everyone, it just brings everyone together, and it can heal us in so many different ways. It's so sad. It really makes me sad that they don't have a vision for what that can do other than just sports or a venue that has to pay big bucks. It can cost very little for people to go if they develop the correct type of park.
Carolina, thanks for your thoughts there. Bill calling from Gainesville, getting calls from all over the state today. Hi, Bill. Good morning.
Hey, good morning. I just wanted to...
I'm having trouble hearing you, Bill. Go ahead.
I'm on the outskirts of Gainesville, so it may go out. But I wanted to say that it seems almost elementary in thought that if you make it attractive for folks to come downtown to enjoy everything that can be provided, entertainment, etc., then that would be the answer to all of it.
And we're losing the connection with Bill, but I appreciate you listening and calling from all the way over in Gainesville, Bill. Lots of calls on this. I'm going to take a few more, then we'll move on to a little more news from the week. Denise in Jacksonville. Hi, Denise. How are you?
Hello.
Go ahead. Oh, you sound great, Denise. You must be right next door to me.
One of the things
Go ahead.
that I've noticed over the last 25 years in Jacksonville with the downtown is it seems to be sort of a vicious circle. When we try and make any kind of improvements down there, and the issue, sadly enough, is with the homeless situation. We put in, beautiful benches and we have small parks down there, and it becomes a gathering place for so many of the homeless, which in essence keeps, families and people from coming downtown. An instance in Hemming Park, they took out all of the very nice, sturdy tables and chairs that people could enjoy lunch, even if they were down there for the candy place or something. They pulled those all out to keep the homeless from sitting and playing chess or whatever they were doing. And the next time I went down there, it was full of homeless just sitting around on curbs and the ground. So it didn't really do anything except for take away from, family opportunities. And as much as I love the river and enjoy it, we had the landing and people didn't come down for that. So I don't really know what the solution is. I can't help but wonder, Regency Mall, if all the homeless shelters could combine into one big place.
It's so funny you mentioned that, Denise, because that is actually our next item from the week. I want to thank you for that. That's Denise in Jacksonville. Okay, we do need to make note of this, that this week, the city of Jacksonville announced it has successfully relocated 48 people from a growing downtown tent city. They've been put into hotels, other shelters. It's part of the city's Pathway to Home initiative, but the tent city is still pretty large. A spokesman for the city of Jax told WJCT News this week more people will be housed as funding becomes available. The homeless crisis has exploded in this pandemic and recession. And, David Bauerlein, when we talk to advocates for the homeless, they have said to us, this has always been a problem. It's just more visible now because the tent city is downtown, centrally located and big. But it's just a visual manifestation of a big problem Jacksonville has had for a long time. And so what are your thoughts, David Bauerlein, about the way the mayor's office and the city has tried to respond to this?
Right. Well, it is a manifestation of an issue that's been around for many, many years in Jacksonville and other cities. And the issue has been compounded by the pandemic because there's got to be social distancing at the homeless shelters. They don't have as many volunteers. So that has made it harder then to have the same number of people in the shelters. So then the homeless are looking for other places to to stay. And so that's created these tent cities. And, the city then put some money together to move people from the tents into a pathway towards housing, and then more people, homeless people, then come in behind the folks who are being helped. So it's a tip of the iceberg type of issue in terms of actually being able to have enough funding to provide housing for all the people who are without it. And it's definitely been more compounded by the pandemic, and it's more visible now even than it was before, to your caller's point, that you come downtown and that's what you see is a tent city is
Right.
one of the visual images.
Nikisha Williams, it's critical to house people because having more people on the streets only exacerbates transmission of coronavirus. And finding a way to get people the mental health support that many of them need is another big part of this. And so, when you talk to the Sulzbacher Center, Changing Homelessness, for years they have been repeating this mantra of rapid rehousing, and that has been going on for a little while now in Jacksonville. It's common sense. City officials are finally sort of catching up to this, that the way to deal with people who don't have homes is to house them.
That is the fastest way to try to tackle the homeless problem. But I think that we're missing the nuance in the issue as well. I did this story covering homelessness for Folio back in December. And what I found in talking to some people who are homeless is that some people don't want to go into housing anymore. They prefer to live on the street, as crazy as it sounds. So those who want to go into housing absolutely can and should and do and go and find those resources, be it at the Salvation Army or the Sulzbacher Center or through Claire White or whatever else, and take advantage of the programs that are out there through Changing Homelessness in the city to get into housing and to get off the street. But there is a large population of homeless people in Jacksonville who don't want to go into housing and prefer to live either in an abandoned building or an abandoned house or in a tent city or in a wooded area somewhere. So we have to look at the nuance of the program and what's available. And as you also said, addressing the mental health issues that come with that too, which I don't think we have adequate mental health services in the city to address the needs of this very critical population.
Yeah, that is such a key piece of it. And funding for mental and behavioral health is low everywhere around the nation, but it's particularly low in Florida. Okay, before we wrap this up with all of you, let's talk about a few other tidbits from the week, beginning with, after a 20-year wait, Mike Mendenhall, Publix has broken ground for a new store in San Marco after almost 20 years of development. I don't think I've ever seen people wait this long for a grocery store in their neighborhood. Tell us about it.
Yeah, people were wondering, is this ever going to happen? Is this ever going to happen? So, and the final product wasn't exactly, it wasn't the same as what was originally pitched in 2002. There was they originally had multifamily apartment housing there, and that's actually been replaced with new townhomes that's actually going to be run by a separate developer. And then the Publix itself is going to be interesting. It's going to be a 2-story Publix, 60,000 square feet. So that area of San Marco, actually, I think the closest grocery store is a couple of miles away. So the people that live in that area of San Marco are finally going to have a grocery store that they don't have to drive a long way to get to. So this has been a long time coming. Regency Centers Corporation broke ground ceremoniously on February 16th.
Yeah. And then last but not least, John Bachman of Action News Jax. We've got a new coaching staff, a new era, and a new home uniform color for the Jacksonville Jaguars, switching from black back to teal. Your thoughts?
Well, for those of you watching online, I have sporting the teal Jags hat for the occasion. Obviously, the radio listeners have no idea, but that's what I'm doing. I think it's great. I mean, look, this, we all feel the teal. I think a lot of folks are weighing in and are excited about that. I think, obviously, to state the obvious, we're way more excited to have Trevor Lawrence as our quarterback of the future. And I think, that's really where the success is going to come. But the teal is a nice touch. I like it.
Yeah. And yes, we are beta testing a video stream of this show today. We will have more to say on that in the coming weeks. Thank you so much, John Bachman of Action News Jax, Nikisha Williams, freelance writer and author, David Bauerlein of the Florida Times-Union, and Mike Mendenhall of the Jax Daily Record. Have a great weekend, guys. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody. All right. In a moment, what do you have on your calendar this weekend? We'll drop in on the organizers of Monster Jam coming back to town actually in early March. Find out about that and more after this.
Taxes, the environment, energy, education, healthcare, a state that's gaining nearly 1,000 new residents every day, and the ongoing quest for resources to meet that growing need. These are critical issues that affect everyone in Florida, and they're just some of the issues we follow every week on Capitol Report. It's your direct connection to what's going on in Tallahassee and what it means to you.
Tonight at 6:30 on WJCT News 89.9.
No heat, no power. A winter storm leaves millions asking a simple question.
Everybody knew ahead of time that the storm was coming. Why are we in this position?
The president's American Rescue Package struggles to win Republican support, and Democrats lay out their plan to offer millions of undocumented immigrants a path to citizenship. The Friday News Roundup, next time on 1A.
Today, starting at 10 on WJCT News 89.9.
Welcome back. Well, Jacksonville's historic Norman Studios is moving ahead with plans to become a museum celebrating this city's silent film era of about 100 years ago, and also groundbreaking filmmaker Richard Norman's early works starring African Americans. You might not know, but Jacksonville used to be the winter film capital of the world, and you can learn about this in Norman's new Film History Center. The studios are located in Arlington, and the museum work is ongoing. Meanwhile, this Sunday, you need to come out and see the historic 1926 early silent film, The Flying Ace. You can register online to see this at normanstudios.org. This is a great way to honor Black History Month and local history. Check it out. All right, Monster Jam is roaring back into town next month, but in a reimagined way. We're so excited right now to welcome Gravedigger driver Kristen Anderson. Hey, Kristen, good morning. Kristen, good morning. Good to talk to you. Hi.
Yeah, nice to be here.
Good to have you on the show. And also on the line, Andrew Palashko, Senior Director of Operations for Monster Jam. Hey, Andrew.
Good morning. How are you?
Great, thanks. In a moment, Kristen, I want to ask you all about what it's like to drive the Gravedigger because I know the fans just love it. But Andrew, first, tell us a little bit about what's on tap for Monster Jam in March in downtown Jacksonville.
Sure. Well, we're excited to come back to Jacksonville, and what Monster Jam is known for really more than 2 decades in the city of Jacksonville, we're going to bring again. We'll have 12 of the best Monster Jam trucks in the world, including Kristen and Gravedigger, Max D, and others. And you can expect some good family entertainment, some high-flying action, and some really exciting racing, skills, and freestyle competitions.
Now, how are you reimagining this event in this time of pandemic so that people can enjoy themselves but still be safe?
Sure, and that's exactly the goal. You know, at the onset of the pandemic, we talked to a lot of our fans. They overwhelmingly said, yes, we want to come to these events. We want to have these great experiences with our families. We want to feel normal for a few hours. We want to escape the anxiety of the day, but we also want to feel safe doing it. So really, it's a collaboration with some of the best sports venues in the world, including the stadium there in Jacksonville, that allows for pod seating, contactless transactions, and other safety measures to keep fans safe. So we're very excited to be on the forefront of the return of live events, and that's what we're bringing to Jacksonville.
Kristen Anderson, driving the Gravedigger is a family affair for you. Is that right? Tell us about what it's like to drive this huge and legendary vehicle.
Yeah, so it is a family affair for me. My dad is Dennis Anderson, and he's been to Jacksonville tons of times, and he actually drove the Gravedigger for 35 years, and he also created it in 1982. So Gravedigger's been in our family for a very long time. I'm a second-generation driver. I am my dad's only girl, and I am the first and only female that has ever driven Gravedigger. So bringing a little bit of history back into the stadium there in Jacksonville.
Yeah. Now, tell us how you train to drive the Gravedigger. What all goes into preparation for this?
Well, I trained to drive Monster Jam trucks at Monster Jam University nearly 4 years ago when I started my career with Monster Jam, and it's a pretty long process. We put a lot of hours in there at the training facility, and then we actually go and compete in live events later on that year. So I was training in late 2016. I had my first event in January of 2017, and ever since then, I've kind of just been on the road and getting a lot of my experience at these events and at these races, and that's just kind of all it takes is seat time. My brothers, Adam and Ryan, they'll be there in Jacksonville, too. They've actually been driving monster trucks in our family for close to over 15 years now. My brother's been in it for a long time, and like I said, my dad drove it for 35 years, so I think it's just more in our blood than anything.
Wow. Well, I know the fans love to see you. It's such a popular part of the whole experience, and Andrew, the Gravedigger's big time, but you have a big lineup. So tell us what else people can expect.
Sure. Well, we actually have several drivers coming off of a very successful Breaking World Records event that aired on Discovery last summer, and we have several Guinness World Record holders that will be in the event, Kristen being one of them, that jumped higher in a Monster Jam truck than anybody has jumped before. Bryce Kenny, the driver of the Great Clips Mohawk Warrior, went over 100 miles per hour in his Monster Jam truck. Adam, Kristen's brother in Megalodon, jumped over 8 Monster Jam trucks, and these are all Guinness certified world records. So all of these world record holders are coming to Jacksonville as part of the event, and they are locked in a fierce points series. This is actually a series that runs through the end of March. And the top, I think, 5 in points are separated by only 10 or 12 points. So by the time we get to Jacksonville after our event in Orlando this weekend, those points will tighten up and be really, really fun and competitive.
All right. So this is all coming to TIAA Bank Field March 6th and 7th. Tickets at Ticketmaster. Andrew, will people have to be masked up in the stadium to attend?
Yes, they will. Masks are required, and for a full list of fan wellness, you can go to monsterjam.com and get the information there.
All right. Check it out. Monster Jam coming back in March. Kristen Anderson, driver of the Gravedigger, on the line, along with Andrew Polashko, Senior Director of Operations for Monster Jam. Have fun, guys. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And that's our show. Thanks to all of our guests and callers today. And thanks to producer Heather Schatz, a big Gravedigger fan, along with director Josh Torres, but he's actually more of a Formula One guy, from what he tells me. Our news director is Jessica Palumbo. Bill Bortsfield is our digital editor. He has a motorcycle, by the way. Bill does. All right. Make sure to tune in today at noon for the Florida Roundup. It's our live statewide call-in show where we round up the biggest stories across the Sunshine State this week. And the podcast for this show will be up later today wherever you listen. And you can listen, by the way, if you download our WJCT app. I'm Melissa Ross, and this is First Coast Connect on WJCT News 89.9 Jacksonville. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Support for First Coast Connect is provided by Baptist Health and the North Florida TPO.
North Florida TPO, proud sponsor of WJCT's First Coast Connect, bringing to the community innovation in transportation planning, commuter services, clean fuels, and intelligent transportation systems.